Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a time in every life when the ordinary no longer satisfies the soul. A time when we realize that existing is not enough. We must live, we must shine, we must rise. The journey from ordinary to extraordinary is not paved with perfection, but with persistence. It is built on moments when we stumble and stand again, when the world tells us we are not enough, and we respond, "Watch me." Extraordinary is not reserved for the chosen few. It is within all of us. It begins when we embrace our stories, the pain, the joy, the struggle, and the triumph. When we dare to be seen, to be heard, to be fully ourselves without apology. It takes courage to rise above fear, to speak when silence is expected, to love when the world hardens. But those who dare to do so, those who use their voices to heal, their hands to uplift, their hearts to embrace, become the ones who leave footprints in history. Life will challenge you. It will push you down when you least expect it. It will test your strength, your patience, and your belief in yourself. But what truly defines a person is not the number of times they fall. It is the number of times they rise. Resilience is the foundation of all extraordinary lives. It is the ability to stand back up after being knocked down, to find light when everything seems dark, and to push forward when the weight of the world is on your shoulders. It is not about never feeling pain or disappointment. It is about refusing to be defeated by them. Think about the moments in your life when you faced hardship, when you felt lost, broken, or unsure of how to move forward. You may have thought that was the end, that you could not bear another setback, another failure, another heartbreak. But somehow you did. Somehow you found the strength to keep going. That is resilience. It is the quiet power inside you that whispers, "You can, you must." Resilience is not something we are born with. It is something we build. Every time we face adversity and choose to keep going, we grow stronger. Every time we refuse to let fear, doubt, or failure define us, we step closer to becoming extraordinary. History is filled with people who faced unimaginable struggles but refused to give up. They did not allow their circumstances to determine their future. They stood up time and time again until they transformed not just their own lives, but the world around them. You have that same power within you. No matter what life throws your way, no matter how many times you fall, remember this: you have the strength to rise. You have the power to endure. And when you choose resilience, you are already on the path from ordinary to extraordinary. So when challenges come, and they will, stand tall, face them with courage, and remind yourself, I am stronger than this moment. I will not be broken. I will rise. There is nothing more powerful, more freeing, and more extraordinary than being unapologetically yourself. Authenticity is the foundation of true greatness. It is the courage to stand in your truth, to embrace your flaws, and to own your uniqueness in a world that constantly pressures you to conform. From a young age, we are taught to fit in. Society has a way of whispering expectations into our ears, how we should speak, how we should dress, what we should believe, and even how we should dream. But the moment we allow the world to shape us into something we are not, we begin to dim our own light. We trade our individuality for acceptance, and in doing so, we lose the very thing that makes us extraordinary, our authenticity. But there is something magical about those who choose to be real, no matter the cost. They move differently. They speak with confidence. They walk with purpose. And most importantly, they inspire others to do the same. Because authenticity is not just about being true to yourself. It is about giving others the permission to do the same. Think about the people you admire most. Are they the ones who blend in, who follow the crowd? Or are they the ones who dare to be different, who embrace their imperfections, who speak their truth even when their voice shakes? Being authentic does not mean being perfect. In fact, it is the opposite. It means owning your struggles as much as your strengths. It means knowing that your quirks, your scars, your story, everything that makes you different is what makes you powerful. But authenticity requires courage. It is not always easy to stand in your truth when the world tells you to be someone else. It takes strength to show up as you are, especially when you fear rejection or judgment. Yet the moment you embrace your true self, you become unstoppable. When you live authentically, you attract the right people, the ones who love you for who you truly are, not for the mask you wear. You step into your purpose, free from the weight of pretending. You begin to live not for approval, but for the joy of simply being yourself. So I ask you, who are you when no one is watching? Who would you be if you let go of fear and embrace the beauty of your true self? That person, the real you, is extraordinary, and the world needs that person more than ever. Dare to be seen, dare to be different, dare to be you, because in a world full of copies, authenticity is the most valuable thing you can offer. There is power in your voice. There is strength in your words. And yet, so many people go through life in silence, afraid to speak, afraid to be heard, afraid to take up space. But the truth is, the world does not change because of those who stay quiet. It transforms because of those who have the courage to speak. From the moment we are born, our voice is our first expression of existence. We laugh loudly, we ask endless questions, we express our thoughts without fear. But somewhere along the way, society teaches us to be quiet, to shrink ourselves, to speak only when spoken to. We are told that our opinions might be too much, that our emotions are inconvenient, that our stories do not matter. But let me tell you something. Your voice does matter. Your words do have power. Speaking up is not always easy. It takes courage to stand up for yourself, to express your beliefs, to share your truth, especially when the world tries to silence you. It takes even more courage to speak not just for yourself, but for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the unheard, the overlooked, the oppressed. Think about the people who have changed history. Were they the ones who remained silent in the face of injustice? Or were they the ones who spoke, who refused to be ignored, who raised their voices even when the world told them to stay quiet? Every great movement, every powerful shift in society, every moment of progress has been sparked by someone who dared to speak, someone who stood up and said, "This is wrong. This must change. I will not be silent." But speaking up is not just about fighting injustice. It is also about having the courage to be vulnerable, to express your emotions, to tell your story. It is about sharing your dreams, your ideas, your experiences, even when you fear judgment. Because when you speak, you not only free yourself, you give others the permission to do the same. How many times have you stayed silent when you wanted to speak? How many times have you held back your ideas, your feelings, your truth, because you were afraid? Afraid of what people might think, afraid of being misunderstood, afraid that your voice was not important enough. But let me remind you, Your voice is a gift. It is unique to you. And no one else can tell your story the way you can. No one else can share your perspective, your wisdom, your experiences. And if you choose to stay silent, the world loses something only you could have given. So I challenge you, speak your truth. Speak with confidence. Speak with love, with passion, with purpose. Whether your words change one life or millions, know this. Every time you choose to speak instead of staying silent, you step closer to becoming extraordinary. Because the world does not need more echoes. It needs voices. It needs your voice. Learning does not end when we leave school, earn a degree, or achieve a career milestone. It is a lifelong journey, an ever-evolving process that shapes who we are and who we become. The moment we stop learning, we stop growing. And when we stop growing, we settle for being ordinary when we were meant to be extraordinary. Lifelong learning is not just about acquiring knowledge. It is about expanding our minds, challenging our perspectives, and continuously seeking wisdom. It is about asking questions, staying curious, and never assuming that we know everything. The world is constantly changing, and those who refuse to learn are left behind. Think about the most successful, impactful, and inspiring individuals in history. They were not just intelligent or talented, they were relentless learners. They understood that knowledge is not something you accumulate once and then set aside. It is something you nurture, something you actively seek every single day. But learning is not just about books, degrees, or classrooms. It is in every conversation, every mistake, every new experience. It is in listening to different perspectives, in traveling to new places, in embracing the lessons that life teaches us through both triumph and failure. Some of the greatest wisdom does not come from textbooks, but from the moments when we step outside of our comfort zones and into the unknown. Lifelong learning also keeps us humble. It reminds us that no matter how much we think we know, there is always more to discover. The world is vast, filled with infinite knowledge, cultures, histories, and innovations waiting to be explored. The moment we believe we have arrived is the moment we stop evolving. And let's not forget the power of learning from others. Whether it is a mentor who guides us, a friend who challenges us, or even a stranger who shares a new perspective, learning happens when we open our hearts and minds to the wisdom around us. But learning takes effort. It requires curiosity, humility, and the willingness to be uncomfortable. It means being okay with not knowing everything and having the courage to admit when we are wrong. It means embracing change, because true learning does not just fill our minds, it transforms our lives. So I ask you, what are you learning today? How are you expanding your mind, your skills, your understanding of the world? If you want to go from ordinary to extraordinary, never stop learning. Be a student of life. Seek knowledge, not just to grow yourself, but to share it, to uplift others, to make the world better. Because the most extraordinary people are not those who know it all, but those who never stop asking, never stop exploring, and never stop growing. No one rises alone. No one achieves greatness in isolation. Behind every extraordinary person is a community of people who uplift, support, and walk alongside them through the journey of life. Community is the foundation upon which we build strength, resilience, and purpose. It is in our relationships, our connections, and our shared experiences that we find the power to go beyond what we could ever accomplish alone. From the moment we are born, we are wired for connection. We seek belonging, understanding, and love. We thrive in environments where we feel seen, heard, and valued. And yet, in a world that often promotes individualism, many people forget the importance of community. They believe that success is a solo journey, that strength comes from independence alone. But the truth is, we are strongest when we stand together. Think about the most significant moments in your life, the times you overcame hardships, achieved a goal, or found the courage to keep going. Were you truly alone, or was there someone who encouraged you, guided you, or simply stood by your side? Whether it was family, friends, mentors, or even strangers who extended kindness, their presence made a difference. Community gives us strength in ways we cannot always see. When we struggle, it reminds us that we are not alone. When we fall, it offers hands to help us rise. When we doubt ourselves, it reflects back to us the greatness we may not yet recognize within. But community is not just about receiving, it is about giving. It is about being there for others, just as others have been there for us. It is about lifting as we climb, offering our support, our wisdom, and our presence to those who need it. True community is built on a foundation of generosity, compassion, and shared purpose. We see the power of community in history, in movements that have changed the world. No great change has ever happened because of one person alone. It happened because people came together, unified by a cause greater than themselves. It happened because individuals realized that their voices were stronger when joined with others, that their impact was multiplied through collective effort. Community also teaches us valuable lessons. It teaches us patience because we must learn to navigate differences. It teaches us empathy because we must understand and support one another. It teaches us humility because we recognize that we do not have all the answers, and sometimes we need help too. Yet in order to build strong communities, we must be intentional. We must choose to connect, to invest in relationships, to show up for others. It requires effort to build trust, to foster meaningful bonds, to create spaces where people feel safe, accepted, and empowered. So I ask you, who is your community? Who are the people you lean on and who leans on you? And most importantly, how are you contributing to the strength of that community? Extraordinary lives are not measured by how far we go alone, but by how many people we bring with us. When we build together, we rise together, and when we rise together, there is no limit to what we can achieve. When we leave this world, we will not be remembered for the money we made, the titles we held, or the material things we owned. We will be remembered for the way we made people feel. We will be remembered for the kindness we extended, the love we gave, and the hearts we touched. Love and kindness are the most powerful forces in the world. They have the ability to heal wounds that cannot be seen, to mend broken spirits, and to inspire change in ways that nothing else can. And yet, in the rush of life, people often overlook them. They chase success, status, and recognition, forgetting that true greatness lies in how we treat others. A legacy is not built in a day. It is built in the small, everyday choices we make. Every time we choose to be kind instead of indifferent. Every time we choose love over anger. Every time we lift someone up instead of tearing them down. We are shaping the legacy we will leave behind. But kindness is not just about grand gestures. It is about the simple, quiet moments that often go unnoticed. It is about listening when someone needs to be heard. It is about offering a smile to a stranger, a word of encouragement to a friend, or forgiveness to someone who has hurt us. It is about showing up, not because we have to, but because we care. Love is not just a feeling, it is an action. It is a decision to give without expecting anything in return. To see the good in people even when they cannot see it in themselves. It is a force that connects us, that reminds us that we are not meant to walk this life alone. Throughout history, the people we remember most are not always the richest or the most famous, but those who led with love. They are the ones who used their voices to uplift, their hands to serve, and their hearts to bring light to others. Their kindness rippled through generations, inspiring countless lives long after they were gone. You do not need to have a stage, a title, or a fortune to leave a legacy of love and kindness. Every interaction, every word, every act of compassion has the power to make a difference. The way you treat others, the respect you give, the empathy you show, the kindness you spread, becomes a part of your story, a part of what you leave behind. So ask yourself, what kind of legacy are you building? Are you living in a way that will be remembered with warmth and gratitude? Are you choosing to be a light in someone's darkness? To offer love in a world that so often chooses division? Because in the end, it will not be the things we collected that matter. It will be the lives we touched, the love we shared, and the kindness we gave freely. That is what makes an ordinary life extraordinary. That is the legacy that will never fade. Life is not measured by the moments we simply exist, but by the moments we rise, transform, and leave a lasting impact. Each of us has the power to go from ordinary to extraordinary, not because of wealth, status, or fame, but because of the choices we make every day. Not because of the choices we make every day. We rise through resilience, by standing tall in the face of adversity and refusing to let life's challenges define us. We shine through authenticity by embracing our true selves and daring to be different in a world that demands conformity. We find power through our voice by speaking our truth with courage and conviction, knowing that our words have the ability to inspire and create change. We grow through lifelong learning by staying curious, seeking wisdom, and never settling for what we already know. We find strength in community by lifting others as we climb, knowing that success is never a solo journey. And above all, we leave a lasting impact through love and kindness by choosing to give, to serve, and to uplift others, knowing that our legacy will be written not in what we accumulate, but in the hearts we touch. So I ask you, how will you choose to live? Will you stay in the comfort of the ordinary, or will you step into the extraordinary life that is waiting for you? Will you let fear, doubt, and hesitation hold you back, or will you rise, speak, learn, and love with everything you have? The extraordinary life is not reserved for a select few. It is available to anyone willing to claim it. And it starts today with one choice, one step, one act of courage at a time. Go forward, be bold, be real, be kind, and most importantly, be extraordinary. Ladies and gentlemen, family and friends, there comes a time when pain sits at the doorstep of our souls, knocking relentlessly. It comes in many forms: loss, rejection, oppression, or the heavy weight of self-doubt. But pain, though ruthless, is not the author of our story. We are. I have walked through storms that tried to silence me. I have felt the cold hands of fear gripping my voice, trying to keep me small. But silence has never been a resting place for truth. The human spirit, resilient and mighty, was never meant to remain shackled in suffering. Through every hardship I have learned this. Pain is not the end. It is the beginning of power, of growth, of the kind of strength that no storm can shake. I have seen rivers move mountains, and I have seen a whisper of courage turn into a roar of freedom. Resilience is not merely surviving, it is thriving despite the obstacles that seek to break you. It is the quiet but unshakable force that allows a person to rise after every fall, to keep walking even when the road is rough, and to stand tall in the face of adversity. Life does not always offer ease or fairness. There will be days when the weight of the world feels unbearable, when pain threatens to consume you, and when every step forward feels like a battle against forces determined to keep you down. But resilience is the refusal to surrender to despair. It is the understanding that hardships do not come to define us, but to refine us. Resilience is the strength of the human spirit in motion. It is the woman who loses everything but finds the courage to rebuild. It is the man who faces rejection after rejection but refuses to give up on his dreams. It is the child who grows up in the midst of struggle but still dares to believe in a brighter future. True resilience does not mean avoiding hardship. It means facing it head on. It means looking pain in the eye and saying, "You will not break me." It means taking life's blows and using them as stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks. It means embracing failure as a lesson. Loss is a reminder of what truly matters, and struggle is the pathway to growth. History is filled with stories of those who endured unimaginable suffering, yet they refused to let their pain be the final word. They pressed on. They transformed tragedy into triumph, weakness into wisdom, and setbacks into comebacks. You too possess that power. Even in your darkest moments, you carry within you the light of resilience. Even when everything around you says you cannot, there is a voice deep within you whispering, "Yes, you can." Listen to that voice. Nourish it. Strengthen it. Resilience is not just about bouncing back. It is about bouncing forward. It is about taking the pain and turning it into power. It is about walking through the fire and emerging stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever before. So when life knocks you down, get up. When the storm rages, stand firm. When the night feels endless, know that the sun will rise again. Because resilience is not just a gift, it is your birthright. And when you embrace it, nothing can hold you back. There comes a time in life when silence is no longer an option. A time when the weight of unspoken words becomes too heavy to bear, when the truth within you demands to be heard. Finding your voice is not just about speaking. It is about reclaiming your power, standing in your truth, and declaring that your existence, your thoughts, and your experiences matter. For too long, many of us have been conditioned to believe that silence is safer, that speaking up invites trouble, that our opinions are insignificant. Some have been silenced by fear, fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of standing alone. Others have been silenced by oppression, made to believe that their voice carries no value. But history has shown us time and time again that silence does not protect us. It imprisons us. It keeps us bound to the expectations of others and robs the world of the wisdom and strength we have to offer. To find your voice is to break free. It is to understand that your words have the power to shape the world around you. It is to reject the notion that you must shrink yourself to fit into spaces that were never meant to contain you. But finding your voice is not always easy. It takes courage to speak when you have been ignored. It takes strength to stand firm when others try to diminish you. It takes patience to discover what truly needs to be said, and wisdom to say it in a way that commands attention. Your voice is your power. It is the instrument through which you share your dreams, your pain, your joy, and your truth. It is the tool that allows you to advocate for yourself and for others. It is the force that can dismantle lies, challenge injustice, and inspire change. Some voices are loud, shaking the very foundations of society. Others are soft but steady, offering comfort and guidance in times of uncertainty. No matter how you choose to express yourself, through words, through art, through action, your voice is needed. Your perspective is valuable. Your story is important. Do not wait for permission to speak. Do not wait for the perfect moment, because the perfect moment may never come. Speak now. Speak with conviction. Speak for those who have yet to find their voices. Speak even when your voice trembles, because every time you do, you grow stronger. And remember, finding your voice is not just about speaking. It is about living boldly, unapologetically, and authentically. It is about knowing that your presence in this world is not accidental. You were meant to be heard, so rise, speak, and let the world feel the power of your voice. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward despite it. It is the quiet whisper that says, "Try again," when everything in you wants to give up. It is the steady heartbeat of those who refuse to let life's storms drown them in despair. Courage is beautiful because it transforms, it liberates, and it empowers. Life will test you. It will place mountains before you that seem too high to climb. It will present challenges that shake the very foundation of who you are. There will be moments when fear tries to paralyze you, when doubt creeps in and convinces you that you are not strong enough, not worthy enough, not capable enough. But courage is the force that defies those lies. It is the light that refuses to be dimmed by darkness. Courage is found in the smallest acts. Choosing to get out of bed when grief weighs you down, daring to dream when the world tells you to be realistic, standing up for what is right even when you stand alone. It is in the mother who sacrifices to give her child a better future. It is in the survivor who reclaims their life after being broken. It is in the activist who speaks out against injustice, knowing the risk but refusing to remain silent. The beauty of courage is that it is not reserved for the fearless. It belongs to those who feel the fear and act anyway. It is the student who raises their hand even when they are unsure. It is the artist who shares their work with the world despite the fear of criticism. It is the person who loves again after their heart has been shattered. Courage is not about being unafraid. It is about refusing to let fear dictate your destiny. Courage is what allows you to step outside the walls of comfort and into the unknown. It is what pushes you to take that job, write that book, say those words, chase that dream. It does not mean you will not fall. It does not mean you will not fail. But it does mean that every time you rise stronger. You rise stronger. Every time you try, you learn. Every time you face fear and refuse to bow to it, you claim a piece of your power. The world needs your courage. It needs people who will dare to love in a world that sometimes feels unkind. People who will speak truth in a world that tries to silence them. People who will stand firm when everything around them shakes. It needs you to believe in yourself, even when the road is uncertain. And so, when fear knocks at your door, answer with courage. When doubt tells you to sit down, stand tall. When life pushes against you, push back with all the strength inside you. Because courage is not just a gift, it is a choice. A choice to live fully, boldly, and without regret. You are braver than you know. You are stronger than you believe. And every step you take in courage is a step toward the life you are meant to live. There is no force more powerful than a person who knows their worth. Self-worth is not given by others. It is something you must claim for yourself. It is the deep, unshakable understanding that you are valuable, not because of what you achieve, not because of what others think of you, but because you are here, because you exist, because you matter. Dignity is the posture of self-respect, the quiet confidence that refuses to be diminished by circumstances or opinions. It is walking through life with your head high, even when the world tries to make you feel small. It is standing firm in who you are, refusing to shrink, refusing to apologize for your existence, refusing to let anyone dictate your worth. But too often, we give away our self-worth. We allow others to determine how we feel about ourselves. We measure our value by how much we are loved by someone else, by the approval we receive, by our successes and failures. We let criticism wound us too deeply, and we let rejection convince us that we are not enough. But hear this, you were born worthy. No mistake, no hardship, no opinion can take that away. You do not have to earn worthiness. It is your birthright. And when you embrace it, when you truly understand your value, you will stop tolerating anything that does not honor you. Self-worth means knowing that you deserve love, not the kind that makes you beg, not the kind that comes with conditions, but love that is true and kind and freely given. It means knowing that you deserve respect, not just from others, but from yourself. It means understanding that you do not have to prove yourself to anyone. You do not have to over-explain, over-perform, or overextend yourself just to be seen. Dignity is found in how you treat yourself. It is in the way you speak to yourself, in the way you allow others to treat you, in the way you walk into a room and take up space without apology. It is choosing to leave spaces that diminish you. It is refusing to accept less than what you deserve. It is standing up for yourself when necessary and knowing when to walk away. But self-worth and dignity must be nurtured. You must protect them, feed them with kindness, guard them from those who seek to tear you down. You must remind yourself daily that you are enough, you are whole, you are deserving of good things. You are allowed to take up space, to have opinions, to demand respect. No one can take your worth from you, but you can forget it, and that is where the danger lies. So remind yourself, again and again remind yourself. Because when you know your worth, you become unstoppable. When you embrace your dignity, the world begins to treat you accordingly. Walk with confidence, speak with certainty, love yourself fiercely, and never ever settle for less than you deserve. Love is the most powerful force in the universe. It has the power to heal, to restore, to break chains, and to build bridges where walls once stood. Love, true, deep, and unconditional, is not just a feeling, but an action, a choice, a commitment. It is the one force that is the power to transform not just individual lives, but entire communities, entire nations, and even the world. Love is not weak. Love is strength. It takes courage to love in a world that often teaches us to guard our hearts, to withhold kindness, to meet hatred with hatred. It takes strength to love after being hurt, to offer grace when we have been wronged, to believe in the goodness of people even when we have seen their worst. But love, real love, does not diminish us. It empowers us. It gives us the ability to rise above bitterness, to move beyond pain, and to create something beautiful out of the brokenness. Love is not just romantic, it is universal. It is found in the gentle hands of a mother caring for her child, in the arms of a friend who stays by your side through difficult times, in the kindness of a stranger who offers help without expecting anything in return. It is the teacher who refuses to give up on a struggling student, the activist who fights for justice because they believe in the dignity of every human being, the individual who forgives not because the other person deserves it, but because they refuse to let hatred poison their soul. Love transforms because it is the antidote to fear, to hatred, to division. Fear tells us to close our hearts, but love urges us to open them. Hatred convinces us to build walls, but love teaches us to reach across them. Division tells us we are different, that we are separate, that we must fight against one another, but love reminds us that we are all connected, that we belong to one another, that we are stronger together than we could ever be apart. But love must first begin within. Too often we seek love from others without first giving it to ourselves. We believe that love must be earned, that we must be perfect, that we must prove ourselves worthy. But love, true love, is not something you must beg for. It is something that exists within you already. You must learn to love yourself, to speak to yourself with kindness, to forgive yourself for past mistakes, to know that you are enough just as you are. When you love yourself, you set the standard for how the world will love you. You refuse to accept anything less than what you deserve. And when you are filled with love, real, deep, unwavering love, it overflows. It touches everyone you meet. It becomes the way you move through the world. It becomes the way you speak, the way you listen, the way you give, the way you fight for what is right. It becomes the legacy you leave behind, the mark you make on this earth. Love transforms pain into healing. It transforms loneliness into connection. It transforms despair into hope. It transforms wounds into wisdom, enemies into friends, and a broken world into something whole again. So choose love. Choose it when it is easy, and choose it when it is hard. Choose it when the world tells you not to. Choose it when your heart feels heavy, when anger feels easier, when fear tries to take control. Choose love, not because it is the easiest path, but because it is the most powerful one. Because in the end, love is the only thing that truly lasts. And it is the only thing that has ever had the power to change the world. Strength is more than survival. It is the foundation upon which history is built, the force that carries generations forward, and the legacy we leave behind. Strength is not just in the loud victories, the great accomplishments, or the moments of triumph. It is in the quiet endurance, in the battles fought in silence, in the determination to rise again after every fall. The legacy of strength is not just about what we overcome, it is about what we pass down. It is about ensuring that those who come after us have a clearer path to walk, that our struggles were not in vain, that our resilience serves as a guide for others navigating their own storms. Strength is not just for ourselves. It is for our children, for our communities, for the world that watches and learns from how we live. We do not walk this journey alone. We stand on the shoulders of those who came before us, People who endured hardship so that we might have the opportunities they never had. Our ancestors fought battles we will never fully understand, sacrificed more than we will ever know, and refused to be broken by the weight of oppression, injustice, and suffering. Their strength did not end with them. It flows through us. Every step we take forward, every moment we refuse to give up, every time we demand more from life, we honor their struggles. But strength is not just about enduring hardship. It is about breaking cycles. It is about recognizing patterns of pain and choosing a different path. It is about healing from generational wounds so that those who come after us do not have to carry the same burdens. It is about refusing to pass down trauma and instead passing down wisdom, love, and courage. The legacy of strength is in the stories we tell, in the lessons we share, in the way we lift others up as we rise. It is in the teacher who inspires a child to believe in themselves. It is in the mother who instills self-worth in her daughter. It is in the leader who refuses to let fear dictate their decisions. It is in the artist who turns pain into beauty, the healer who turns suffering into peace, the activist who turns injustice into change. Strength is not about never falling. It is about always rising. It is about knowing that every hardship faced, every obstacle overcome, every tear shed in struggle has meaning. It is about turning that struggle into something greater than ourselves. It is about making sure that when we leave this world, we leave behind something better than what we found. The question is not whether we will face adversity, because we will. The question is, how will we respond? Will we let it break us, or will we use it to build something greater? Will we allow our pain to make us bitter, or will we transform it into something powerful? Will we let the weight of the world make us small, or will we stand tall, knowing that we are part of something bigger than ourselves? Strength is a gift. It is a torch passed down from generation to generation, and now it is in your hands. What will you do with it? Will you hold it high for others to see? Will you let its light guide you? Will you use it to ignite change, to inspire hope, to leave behind a legacy that speaks of resilience, courage, and love? Because in the end, strength is not just about what we endure. It is about what we build, what we teach, and what we leave behind. Live boldly, love deeply, stand tall, and let your strength be the legacy that lights the way for generations to come. Through struggle, we find strength. Through heartbreak, we learn resilience. Through fear, we discover courage. Every challenge, every setback, every wound we have endured has not come to destroy us, but to shape us into who we were always meant to be. The journey from pain to power is not an easy one, but it is necessary. It is a path walked by all who refuse to be defined by their hardships, by all who choose to rise despite the weight of their past, by all who understand that they are more than the pain they have endured. We have explored the power of resilience, the importance of finding our voice, the beauty of courage, the necessity of self-worth and dignity, the transformative force of love, and the lasting legacy of strength. These are not just words, they are truths we must carry with us, truths we must live by, because within each of us lies the power to overcome, to heal, to stand tall, and to build a future greater than the past we have known. Let this be a reminder. You are not your wounds. You are not your failures. You are not the mistakes or the tragedies that have come your way. You are strength. You are courage. You are love. And you are capable of transforming your pain into power, your struggles into wisdom, your fear into fire. So stand firm, speak boldly, love fiercely, and never forget that the power you seek has been within you all along. Now go forth and use it to change your life and the world. Hello, everyone. There comes a time in each of our lives when the weight of the world sits heavy on our shoulders. You wake up in the morning, and before the sun has had the chance to kiss your face, the burdens begin to whisper. Deadlines, expectations, fears. They rise like the tide and threaten to pull you under. And yet, you rise. You breathe. You move through it all with a quiet courage that often goes unnoticed, even by your own heart. Now listen, child. Pressure is not the enemy. No, pressure is the sculptor. It is the heat that shapes the iron. It is the fire that awakens the strength within bones that thought they could break. Pressure will knock on your door without warning, sit at your table uninvited, and dare you to fold. But you were not built to crumble. You were made of stronger stuff. You were woven from resilience, stitched with threads of purpose and held together by the glue of your own belief. Pressure reveals the strength that comfort hides. It's a truth we often forget when we're knee-deep in challenges, when the weight of responsibility presses against our chests and the world feels like it's closing in. In those moments, it's easy to feel broken, scattered, unsure, but deep beneath that noise, under all the layers of fear and doubt, something powerful begins to stir. Something raw, something real, something that comfort could never call forth. Comfort is gentle, and yes, sometimes it is necessary, but it does not test us. It does not stretch us. It cradles us in softness and tells us we're safe. And while safety has its place, growth demands more. Growth calls for fire, for resistance, for pressure. When life wraps you in comfort, you may feel calm, but you rarely feel challenged. You rarely discover just how far you can go. It's only when the world dares to push you down that you realize you can stand taller than you ever imagined. Think back to your hardest days, the days when your chest ached with worry, when your thoughts raced with no finish line in sight. You might not have realized it then, but in those exact moments, your spirit was learning to hold weight it had never carried before. Muscles of resilience were being built. Courage was being carved. That strength, the kind that doesn't need applause to exist, was being awakened by pressure. You see, the pressure does not come to destroy you. It comes to introduce you to the version of yourself you haven't met yet. It comes to strip away the excess, the distractions, the false stories you've been told about your limits. It clears the fog. It shines a light on what matters most. And most of all, it asks you to trust yourself, your instincts, your heart, your voice. When you believe in your own ability to navigate through stress, the pressure stops feeling like an enemy and starts becoming your teacher. You begin to see obstacles as opportunities to rise. You begin to speak to yourself with more compassion, with more certainty. You say, I've made it through storms before. I'll make it through this one too. And you do, again and again. Every trial you face becomes proof of your power. Every tear you've wiped alone becomes a medal of quiet triumph. Every sleepless night, every trembling step, every moment you thought you couldn't go on but did anyway, it all builds a foundation that comfort could never give you. That's the beautiful hidden gift of pressure. It uncovers the strength that's been waiting inside you all along. Let the pressure come. Don't run from it. Don't curse it. Let it shape you. Let it remind you that you are not fragile. You are not defined by fear. You are not made to stay small. You are made to grow, to expand, to endure, and to rise. Not in the absence of stress, but through it. And every time you do, you are stepping deeper into your power. Self-belief is the anchor that steadies the soul in any storm. When life grows loud and the winds of doubt begin to howl, it is your belief in yourself that holds you upright. It is the quiet confidence that whispers to your spirit, reminding you that no matter how rough the waters get, you have the strength to stay afloat. Without that belief, even the calmest days can feel overwhelming, but with it, Even the heaviest storms become manageable. You see, stress often comes not from what's happening around us, but from the stories we tell ourselves about who we are. When you tell yourself you're not enough, not ready, not capable, stress wraps tighter around your chest. But when you say, I've got this, even if your voice shakes, something begins to shift. You breathe a little deeper. You stand a little taller. You stop waiting for someone else to save you because you realize the hero is already within. That kind of self-belief doesn't come overnight. It is born from showing up for yourself over and over again. It's the result of choosing courage when fear screams louder. It's built one decision at a time. When you push through discomfort, when you forgive your mistakes, when you honor your own pace. And the more you keep showing up, the more your soul begins to trust you. That trust becomes unshakable. It becomes your anchor. Life will not promise you still waters. It will offer you high tides, rough winds, moments where the shoreline disappears altogether. But when you are grounded in self-belief, you don't get lost in the storm. You learn how to navigate it. You begin to respond instead of react. You begin to trust the wisdom in your own breath, the guidance in your own heartbeat. You stop searching for validation outside of yourself because you finally learn how to validate your own journey. And it's not about having all the answers. It's about knowing that whatever comes, you will find a way through. That kind of certainty, rooted in self-belief, is more powerful than any plan, more solid than any approval, more healing than any praise. Because it comes from you, and once it takes root, the storms of life can no longer shake your foundation. Even in the hardest moments, self-belief creates space between pressure and panic. It reminds you that what you feel is real, but it doesn't have to control you. It reminds you that you've been through difficulty before and emerged wiser, stronger, and more resilient. And it reminds you that you are still becoming, still unfolding, still learning, and that is more than enough. When you hold on to belief in yourself, pressure transforms. It stops being a force that crushes and becomes a force that reveals. It shows you just how deeply you can trust yourself. It teaches you that the most reliable peace does not come from a perfect life, but from knowing that you can meet imperfection with grace. And so, when you feel the weight building, pause and return to that place inside, the part of you that remembers who you are, the part that never gave up, the part that knows your worth is not measured by ease, but by how you rise and challenge. That belief, strong, unwavering, and yours, is your greatest anchor. Hold on to it. Let it steady you. Stress becomes fuel when guided by purpose and confidence. What once felt like a heavy chain begins to feel like a spark. That fire in your chest, the one that aches when you're overwhelmed, it doesn't have to burn you. It can light your path. But the difference lies in how you hold it. If you let fear shape your thoughts, stress will only drag you down. But if you learn to channel it with direction and belief, it becomes energy, it becomes momentum. We are not meant to live untouched by pressure. Life stretches us, molds us, pushes us up against walls, not to trap us, but to help us see what we're truly made of. And when you have a clear sense of purpose, when you know why you wake up, why you keep going, why you continue to rise even after falling, stress stops feeling like a punishment. It becomes a signal that something meaningful is on the line, something worth your effort, worth your persistence. There is power in stress that is aligned with purpose. Think about it. When you care deeply about something, your body and mind naturally react. There's urgency, intensity, movement. But instead of letting that feeling overwhelm you, you can step into it. You can say, this matters to me. This is worth my energy. That shift in perspective can turn chaos into clarity. It transforms discomfort into a driving force. But purpose alone isn't enough. You need confidence, quiet, deep confidence, not arrogance, not pretending to have it all figured out, but the kind of confidence that grows from knowing you have the strength to learn, to adapt, to survive. Confidence tells stress, You may walk beside me, but you do not control me. It gives you the inner steadiness to use stress as a tool instead of a trap. We often run from stress because we've been taught to see it as the enemy. But what if we've misunderstood it? What if stress is just your body preparing you for battle, for creation, for growth? It's a signal that you're stepping into something bigger than you've known. And when you face it with purpose and self-belief, that stress sharpens you. It heightens your senses. It makes you more alert, more alive. It becomes a partner, not a prison. You don't have to fear stress. You don't have to resent it. You can learn to ride it, to let it carry you where you're meant to go, like a river with a strong current. It can sweep you away if you are unprepared. But if you know how to steer, if you trust your inner compass, you can use that same current to move faster, stronger, farther. And yes, the pressure will still be there, but it won't own you. You will begin to see it not as a burden, but as a bridge, one that connects where you are now with where you're meant to be. And every step you take across it, fueled by clarity and confidence, brings you closer to the powerful, grounded version of yourself that you've been becoming all along. So let the stress come, let it rise, let it burn, and then take that fire and walk forward. True power is born in the moments you choose not to give up. Not when things are easy, not when the sun is shining and the road is smooth. Power is not made on mountaintops. It is made in the valleys, in the thick of struggle, in the heart of stress, in the quiet war between what hurts and what matters. It is in those moments when your knees are buckling, your spirit is weary, and giving up feels like the simplest path. That is where power begins to rise. Sometimes all you have is one more breath, one more step, one more whisper to yourself that says, just keep going. It may not seem like much at the time, but it is everything. Because the choice not to quit, especially when every bone in your body begs for rest, is the choice that shapes your spirit. It is the decision that chisels away the fear and reveals the strength that was hidden under the surface. You don't have to roar to be powerful. You don't need the world to clap for you. Power is not always loud. Sometimes it is soft. Sometimes it is trembling. Sometimes it is just a refusal to be broken. The refusal to let stress and pressure decide the outcome of your story. You stand in the middle of that storm, heart pounding, eyes blurred, and you say, I'm still here. That is power. That is victory. The mind will often whisper reasons to stop. It will remind you of your past failures, your doubts, your insecurities, but your soul knows your strength. It knows your journey. It has seen every moment you wanted to fall but didn't. That's why it keeps nudging you forward, even when your body is tired and your faith feels thin. Because deep down, you were never meant to break. You were meant to rise. You must understand this. Every time you choose not to quit, you are rewriting the story of who you are. You are telling the world and yourself that your spirit is not for sale, that your purpose is stronger than your fear, that pressure may bend you, but it will not destroy you. And once you realize that, once you see how much strength lives inside your smallest choices, you begin to trust yourself more deeply. You begin to see that the person who keeps going, even when it's hard, is the person who becomes unstoppable. This does not mean you won't cry. It does not mean you won't break down or feel lost at times. That is part of the journey. Let the tears fall. Let the weight settle for a moment, but then rise. Because each time you do, you are growing, you are learning, you are becoming the person who turns stress into strength and pressure into power. So when the world feels heavy, when nothing makes sense, and the easiest thing to do would be to let go, choose to hold on, choose to breathe through the tension, choose to take one more step. Because in that choice lies the seed of your transformation. That is where your power begins, and it never stops growing from there. The voice you believe inside shapes the reality you live outside. Every thought, every whisper of self-talk that echoes in your mind becomes the foundation you walk on. If that voice tells you you're weak, you will see every challenge as too much to bear. If it tells you you're incapable, even your strengths begin to feel like burdens. But when that voice inside speaks with kindness, with strength, with truth, you begin to rise in ways you never imagined. You begin to look at stress not as the enemy, but as a signal that you are still moving, still alive, still trying, and that matters more than perfection ever could. You don't always need the world to speak life into you. What you need is to speak life into yourself, because stress, pressure, difficulty, they will always come. But how they affect you is shaped by what you believe in the quiet of your own mind. When the voice within says, I can't handle this, the body follows, the heart shrinks, the soul retreats. But when that inner voice says, I am still standing, I am not done, even the heaviest stress begins to lose its grip. We are taught to look for approval, to wait for someone to tell us we're worthy, strong, and capable. But the truth is, you've always had that power. You've always had the ability to speak to yourself with love, with patience, with unwavering belief. That's not weakness. That's not false hope. That is the root of resilience. Because when the world outside grows dark, the light within you must shine brighter. The pressure will test you. It will challenge your beliefs. It will bring the old doubts to the surface, the ones that told you you're not enough, that you're too broken, too behind, too late. But those voices are echoes of fear. They are not the truth. You have the ability to choose what you believe. You can listen to the noise, or you can lean into that quiet, steady voice that says, I am doing my best. I am learning. I am growing. And I will keep moving. Your thoughts are not just passing clouds. They are the architects of your experience. Speak defeat, and your spirit will wither. Speak faith, and you will find strength in the very places you thought were empty. When you believe in your own voice, when you trust what lives within, even under pressure, you become unshakable. You don't have to be fearless. You just have to believe that fear does not define you. You don't need to silence all doubt. You only need to raise your belief louder than your doubt. Every morning, you get the chance to speak something new into yourself. So choose words that lift. Choose thoughts that build, because what you believe inside becomes the compass that guides you through the pressure, through the chaos, through the unknown. When you begin to shape your inner world with compassion and courage, the outside world no longer holds the same power over you. Stress may come, pressure may build, but your belief becomes the foundation that holds firm. That belief reminds you that you are not just reacting to life, you are creating it, moment by moment, thought by thought. And that creation begins with the voice you choose to believe. Rising above pressure begins with trusting your own worth, not the worth someone else assigns to you, not the kind that changes with accomplishments or applause, but the quiet, steady worth that has always lived inside you. When stress begins to mount and the demands of life feel like too much to carry, it is this inner knowing that holds you upright. The world may try to measure you by how much you produce, how fast you succeed, or how perfectly you handle adversity, but none of that defines you. What defines you is how deeply you believe that you are enough, even in the middle of the storm. We all face moments when pressure makes us question who we are, moments when things fall apart, when the noise outside grows louder than our inner calm, when expectations crush the joy out of the process. It is in those moments that trusting your own worth becomes not just important, but essential, because without that trust, it becomes easy to feel like you're failing, like you're falling behind, like you're not strong enough. But the truth is, your worth doesn't disappear under pressure. It simply waits for you to see it again. You were never meant to prove yourself to the world. You were meant to live from a place of wholeness, to act from the deep understanding that you are already valuable, already needed, already complete. This doesn't mean you won't grow or stretch or face challenges. It simply means that pressure doesn't define you, it reveals you. And when you stand rooted in your own worth, you no longer see pressure as a threat. You begin to see it as a call to remember who you are, a call to rise with intention instead of fear. Stress has a way of distorting our view. It makes us forget our progress. It blinds us to our courage. It tempts us to measure ourselves by the chaos around us. But when you trust in your worth, you reclaim your clarity. You remember that even if things aren't perfect, even if you don't have it all figured out, you are still worthy of love, rest, joy, and peace. You don't earn your value by surviving stress. You carry your value with you through it. That kind of belief is not weakness, it is power, quiet, unshakable power. It allows you to face stress with more grace, not because you are immune to it, but because you are no longer defined by it. You start to make choices not out of fear of failure, but out of respect for your own journey. You learn to say no when something drains your spirit, to pause when you need rest, and to keep going when your heart knows you're capable. Trusting your worth means knowing that pressure does not get to rewrite your story. It may add chapters, it may introduce plot twists, but the pen stays in your hand. You get to decide what this moment means. You get to choose how you rise. So when the weight feels unbearable, return to that truth. You are not here to be crushed by the world's expectations. You are here to remember that your value is not fragile. It does not disappear in chaos. It does not need to be proven. It only needs to be trusted. And when you trust it truly and deeply, no pressure in the world can shake the power that rises from within you. And so let us remember this. Pressure is not our enemy. Stress is not a sign of weakness. And the storms we face are not here to break us. They are here to reveal us. Deep within every moment of doubt, within every wave of fear, lies an opportunity to rise, to discover the strength we didn't know we had, to speak to ourselves with truth and kindness, to choose purpose over panic and belief over defeat. You are not powerless in the face of stress. You are powerful because of how you face it. You are not here to be perfect. You are here to be present, to keep going, to keep choosing yourself, even on the hardest days. Your worth is not measured by how calmly you carry the weight, but by the fact that you carry it and still keep moving. So let the world test you. Let the pressure come, because now you know it's not the pressure that defines you. It's how you rise from it that makes you powerful. Good luck on your journey, and thank you for walking through these words with me. May you rise with belief, walk with purpose, and never forget the strength you carry within. Good evening, everyone. There comes a time in every soul's journey when the winds no longer blow gentle and the sun forgets to shine soft. It is in that moment, trembling but still standing, that we come to know what we are made of. You see, growth does not happen in the quiet corner of ease. No, growth is a storm. It is a fire, it is a rhythm played loud by a heart that refuses to give up even when it has every reason to. We often search for peace by reaching for comfort, but comfort can be a slow death wrapped in velvet. It sings you lullabies and tells you you are safe, but it never tells you that you are strong. When you stay where it is warm and known and easy, you miss the gift of becoming. The world does not need more people who hide from the hard. The world needs people who are bold enough to walk barefoot across burning questions, who are not afraid to cry or crawl or fall if it means rising again better than before. You may want to sit still and wait for courage to find you, but courage does not come like that. Courage comes when you open the door anyway. It comes when your voice shakes, but you speak the truth anyway. It comes when your hands are empty, but you still try to build something anyway. You must go where your knees knock. You must say yes to what scares you. Say yes to the unknown. Say yes to the ache. Say yes to the climb that makes your legs scream. For in that saying yes, you whisper to life that you are not just passing through this world. You are here to live fully and freely and unafraid. Discomfort is not your enemy, it is your invitation to evolve. Most people run from discomfort as though it is some cruel force sent to break them. But what if instead it is here to make us? What if the tightness in your chest before a bold decision is simply the signal that your soul is stretching? What if the fear before you speak the truth is the fire that purifies your voice? We are taught to seek safety, to build lives that avoid conflict, risk, and struggle. But the truth is, nothing grows in safety. A seed cannot bloom in a place where nothing stirs the soil. When life gets too easy, we often forget how strong we are. We forget the power that sits quietly beneath the surface of our days. Discomfort wakes us, it shakes us. It asks us who we are when nothing is guaranteed, when the answers do not come quick, when the light is dim but we choose to move anyway. That is where evolution begins, not in perfection, but in the willingness to wrestle with the unknown. So many dreams die, not because people lack talent, but because they fear being uncomfortable. They fear rejection. They fear being judged. They fear failing in front of others. But discomfort is not failure. It is the path through which greatness introduces itself. Every brave soul you admire has walked through the fire of discomfort. They did not wait for courage to find them. They moved with trembling hands, beating hearts, and uncertain steps, trusting that something inside them would grow stronger with every challenge. Discomfort does not come to break you. It comes to build resilience, to burn away what no longer serves you, to shape you into someone who can carry the weight of their dreams. It is the voice that says you are made for more, even when your feet ache and your spirit bends. Do not silence that voice. Do not push away the tension. Lean into it, because in that space between who you were and who you are becoming, magic lives. When you learn to welcome discomfort as a teacher, you no longer waste time waiting for perfect conditions. You act, you move, you create. And with each small victory, your fear begins to shrink, not because the world became easier, but because you became stronger, because you chose to evolve instead of escape, because you listened to the invitation written in discomfort's voice. That is how you rise. That is how you become someone who does not just survive, but transforms. Every meaningful breakthrough begins with a moment of uncertainty. That trembling pause before you leap, the quiet voice inside questioning whether you're ready, that is not weakness. It is the birthplace of something powerful. The unknown is often dressed in doubt, wrapped in discomfort, and sealed with fear. But if you dare to step into it, you will find that it holds the very key to your becoming. Nothing that ever changed a life, a soul, or a world began in the place of certainty. We long for control, for solid ground beneath every decision, for guarantees that what we risk will bloom in our favor. But life was never designed to be predictable. It was meant to stretch us, to surprise us, to call out parts of ourselves we have not yet met. When you feel unsure, that is not a sign to turn back. It is a signal that you are on the edge of growth. That edge may feel shaky, but it is also sacred, because standing there, you are forced to decide whether you will choose comfort or courage. There is no evolution without that moment of hesitation. It is not weakness to feel uncertain. It is human. But the ones who rise, the ones who shape their destiny, are not the ones who wait for the doubt to disappear. They are the ones who walk forward with it. They hold the uncertainty like a lantern and use it to illuminate the next small step. Not the whole path, just the next step, and then the next, and the next. Until one day they look back and see that what once felt impossible has become their new home. You see, the world doesn't reward certainty, it rewards motion. It rewards the ones who show up trembling, the ones who try when they're unsure, the ones who choose action over endless waiting. Every dream you've ever whispered to yourself will require that first uncertain step. It will ask you to speak before your voice is steady, to begin before your hands feel ready, to trust before you can see how it all fits together. Let uncertainty become your doorway, not your wall. Let it remind you that you are alive and reaching for something real, because when you walk through that door, trembling but determined, the world responds, doors open, voices rise, strength appears, and your spirit remembers what it is capable of. That is the beauty of it all, the discomfort, the risk, the shaky beginning. It is not the end of you, it is the beginning of everything. Growth only begins when the comfort zone ends. We spend so much of our lives trying to stay safe, to hold on to the known, to walk paths already marked out by others. But comfort, while soothing, can quietly become a prison. It wraps around your potential like soft chains, unseen, unnoticed, but deeply felt. And though you may not see the bars, you feel the weight of the dreams you've delayed, the voice inside that keeps whispering, "There's more to you than this." To grow is to break those chains, not all at once, not with grand gestures, but step by step into places that ask more of you than you have been willing to give. Comfort never asks for courage. It never requires effort. It simply lets you stay still, even when your soul aches for movement. But true growth, the kind that changes not just your path, but your very being, only happens when you decide that standing still is no longer enough. There will be times when stepping beyond comfort feels like walking into darkness. You will not know what waits ahead. You may not even know what you're capable of yet. But something powerful begins to stir the moment you decide to try, the moment you say yes to the unknown. Your strength begins to reveal itself. You find new layers of yourself, not because they were handed to you, but because you earned them in the fire of challenge. The comfort zone is not a place to stay. It is a place to rest briefly before the next leap. But too many people treat it like a home, decorating it with distractions, surrounding it with excuses, pretending that smallness is enough. It is not. You were made for more than ease. You were made for purpose. And purpose lives outside the familiar. So when life nudges you, when it pushes you towards something that feels too big, too risky, too uncertain, listen. That push is not to harm you. It is to grow you. Because the one truth that never fails is this: the best parts of you are not found where it is safe. They are found in the stretch, in the strain, in the choice to rise when lying low would be easier. Every person who has done something meaningful has walked out of comfort and into challenge. They were not fearless, they were not ready, but they moved anyway. And in moving, they discovered that what they feared could not stop them, because what lived inside them was greater than the comfort they left behind. So if you are longing for growth, if you are craving change, do not look for it where things are soft and simple. Look for it where you tremble. Look for it where you hesitate, because that is where your next chapter begins. The courage to be uncomfortable is the beginning of real confidence. Many believe that confidence is something you were born with, a light that some carry naturally while others live in the shadows. But confidence does not arrive like a gift wrapped in certainty. It is carved out in moments of deep discomfort, in the places where you feel unsure, exposed, and unready, but you choose to show up anyway. That choice is where courage is born, and from that courage, confidence slowly begins to bloom. There is a quiet kind of strength in doing what frightens you, in standing tall when your voice shakes and your heart beats faster than you'd like to admit. That strength does not come from pretending to be fearless. It comes from knowing that fear is present and still stepping into the space where your growth lives. True confidence is not about always knowing what to do. It's about trusting that whatever happens, you will figure it out. But you only learn that through experience. And experience is what discomfort offers in abundance. Too many wait for confidence before they take action. They wait for the perfect moment when their nerves settle and the path becomes clear. But that moment rarely comes. The world rewards the brave, not the certain. It rewards the ones who walk through the fire of discomfort, who accept that stumbles and mistakes are part of the journey, and who understand that every fall is a step closer to standing stronger. You do not become confident by avoiding challenges. You become confident by facing them. You become confident by being the person who says yes to the speech even when your knees tremble, who volunteers for the difficult task even when your voice is uncertain, who dares to try even with no guarantee of success. Because every time you walk through discomfort, you collect evidence that you can survive it. And with that evidence, your belief in yourself begins to grow. You must learn to lean into the hard moments, to sit with the tightness in your chest and say, I can do this. Maybe not perfectly, maybe not easily, but I can. That is the root of confidence. It is not loud or boastful. It is quiet, calm, and deeply rooted in truth. It says, I have been through the uncomfortable before, and I came out stronger. I will do it again. So stop waiting for the fear to leave. Let it come with you. Let it walk beside you as you build the life you were meant for. You do not need to feel ready. You need only to be willing. Because the moment you choose courage over comfort, you begin to discover the kind of confidence that no applause can give and no failure can take away. Greatness demands that you sit with fear and still choose forward. It does not call to the faint-hearted or to those who wait for the world to feel safe. It reaches for the ones who are willing to feel the quake in their hands, the doubt in their minds, and the pounding in their chest, and still move toward what matters. Fear is not a signal to stop. It is a sign that you are stepping into something real, something unfamiliar, something that has the power to shape who you are becoming. You can carry fear and still be brave. They are not enemies. Fear is not the barrier. The barrier is the belief that you must eliminate fear before you act. But fear will always rise when you care deeply, when the stakes are real, when the path is new. And that is exactly when you must press forward, because those are the moments when you meet yourself, your real self. Not the one you show to please the world, but the one who knows what it means to rise despite. We admire the bold, the brave, the accomplished, but we forget that each one of them had to battle the same tremors of fear. The difference is not in the absence of fear, it is in the presence of decision. A decision to keep going, to try, to fail, to fall, and to get back up again. That is what greatness looks like in motion. It does not arrive fully formed. It is built in the silence between doubt and determination. And it is strengthened every time you choose action over avoidance. Fear will whisper 1,000 reasons to wait. It will tell you that you are not ready, that someone else is better, that failure is too painful. But you must learn to recognize that voice and walk through it. Because the other side of fear is where your most powerful self waits. Not a perfect self, not a fearless self, but a self that has learned the rhythm of resilience and the melody of rising. Even when it shakes, you keep moving. Even when your thoughts scream no, listen to the deeper yes inside your soul. That yes is your compass. It knows where your purpose lives, and it will not let you rest in a place that keeps you small. Fear may walk with you, but it cannot decide for you. Only you hold that power. And with every decision to face what frightens you, you become the kind of person who doesn't just survive challenge, but transforms through it. That is the quiet truth of greatness. It does not ask you to be unafraid. It asks you to be willing. Unfamiliar paths lead to the most extraordinary destinations. We often crave certainty, hoping every turn in life will be marked with clear signs, steady footing, and the comfort of knowing where we are going. But life rarely offers such clarity. Instead, it gives us winding roads, blank maps, and moments where we must walk forward with nothing but faith. That's not a mistake. That is the design, because the roads that challenge us most are the very roads that shape us deeply. You may find yourself standing at a crossroads with no obvious answers. The path ahead may look rough, unclear, even a little frightening. But don't let that stop you. The path that demands courage from you is the same one that will awaken parts of your spirit you never knew were there. You do not discover strength on smooth roads. You discover it when you lose your balance and learn to catch yourself. You discover it when you take one uncertain step after another and somehow you find your way through. It is tempting to stay where things are known, to repeat old routines, to walk the path others have walked before, to stick with what feels safe. But safety does not bring you alive. It keeps you repeating versions of yesterday. If you want a life that is vibrant, meaningful, and full of depth, you must be willing to journey into the unfamiliar. That is where new voices are heard. That is where unseen doors begin to open. That is where you meet the person you were always meant to be. And yes, you will doubt yourself. You will wonder if you've made a mistake. You will face moments when the way forward feels like a question with no answer. But in those very moments, something remarkable happens. You begin to learn that you are more resourceful than you believe. You begin to trust your instincts, your heart, your voice. You stop asking for permission and start creating your own rhythm. And slowly, step by step, that unfamiliar road becomes your own. Do not be afraid to walk where others have not. Do not turn back just because the path has no signposts. The most breathtaking views in life are not found along the easy trails. They are earned through persistence, through presence, through the quiet bravery of choosing discomfort over stagnation. Every great journey begins with a step into the unknown, and every extraordinary destination is waiting on the other side of your willingness to go there. So keep walking, even if the ground shakes beneath you. Keep trusting, even when your heart feels unsure. The unfamiliar is not there to defeat you. It is there to elevate you. And so, as we stand at the edge of all we've ever known, let us remember that comfort was never the goal. Becoming was. Growth does not come wrapped in ease. It comes through the struggle, the stretch, the silent battles we fight with our own fear. To get comfortable with being uncomfortable is not just a challenge, it is a calling. A calling to rise beyond the limits we once accepted, a calling to walk boldly into the unfamiliar with open hands and an open. For it is in those trembling steps that we begin to carve a life that is not just lived, but deeply felt and fully awakened. May you choose courage over comfort. May you trust the strength that discomfort is trying to reveal within you. And may you always remember your journey through the unknown is the doorway to something extraordinary. Good luck on your path, and thank you for walking this journey with me. There are moments in life when the loudest voice we hear is not from the world around us, but from within. That quiet whisper, that constant commentary, that unseen companion that speaks before we even move. Sometimes it lifts us, but often it limits us. It tells us we are not ready, not worthy, not enough. And yet, it is that same voice that holds the power to transform us from the critic who doubts to the champion who rises. Every person has an inner world that shapes the outer one. What we think becomes what we see. What we repeat becomes what we believe. Many people spend their lives fighting external battles, trying to silence the judgment of others, but they forget the first battlefield lies inside their own mind. You see, the voice within can either be your greatest ally or your deepest enemy. The difference lies in awareness. Once you begin to see that your thoughts are not facts, that your doubts are not destiny, you begin to reclaim your power. The critic inside you was never meant to destroy you. It was born from fear, from protection, from the desire to keep you safe from failure or pain. But what keeps you safe also keeps you small. Every time you stop yourself from trying, that voice celebrates victory. Every time you believe that you are not ready, that you cannot do it, that you are not like them, that voice grows stronger. But the moment you say, enough, I am more than this voice, a shift begins. Awareness becomes the beginning of transformation. The voice within shapes the world you live in. Train it to speak strength, not fear. Most people spend their lives reacting to what happens around them, believing that circumstances define how they feel and who they become. But the truth is, life is not simply what happens to you, it is what you tell yourself about what happens. The words you repeat in silence, the thoughts you feed every morning, and the stories you whisper to yourself at night, they create your reality long before your actions do. The mind is a powerful architect, constantly building the world you walk through brick by brick, thought by thought. When your inner voice is filled with fear, everything begins to look uncertain. Challenges appear larger, opportunities feel unreachable, and self-doubt becomes the shadow that follows every step. You start believing that life is against you, that others are more capable, that your timing is never right. But this is not truth. It is a reflection of an untrained voice. The mind left unattended becomes a wild garden, and fear is the weed that grows fastest. It takes no effort to let it spread, but it takes patience and intention to pull it out and replace it with strength. Training your inner voice is not about pretending everything is perfect. It is about teaching it to respond with courage instead of panic, with hope instead of hesitation. Every time you face a setback and say to yourself, "This is a lesson, not a loss," you are reshaping the very structure of your mind. Every time you fail and whisper, "I'll try again," you are building resilience where fear once lived. Over time, these small shifts create a foundation of inner power. You begin to notice that your external world starts to mirror your new inner language. Opportunities seem to appear, not because the world changed, but because you did. The critic inside you loves comfort. It wants you to stay where it's safe, where there is no risk of embarrassment or pain. But growth is never found in the comfort zone. Growth begins when you walk into discomfort with an inner voice that says, "Even if I don't know what happens next, I will find my way." This voice is not loud, it is calm and steady. It does not need to shout to be powerful. It carries quiet confidence, born from the understanding that no matter how many times you fall, you have the strength to rise again. You have to remember that your mind listens to everything you say. Every word becomes instruction. When you tell yourself, "I can't handle this," your body tightens, your energy lowers, and your vision narrows. But when you say, "I will find a way," your entire being opens to possibility. Your brain begins searching for solutions, your energy lifts, and your focus sharpens. Words are not just sounds, they are signals to your nervous system, to your energy, to your very spirit. That is why training your inner dialogue is one of the most powerful practices you can master. Imagine if, instead of fear, your inner voice became your greatest supporter. Imagine waking up every day and hearing words that encourage rather than discourage, that guide rather than judge. It doesn't mean you will never feel afraid again. It means fear will no longer control your choices. When strength becomes your language, you stop waiting for confidence to arrive. You start acting from it. You begin walking into challenges with a steady heart, knowing that every experience, even the painful ones, adds to your wisdom. Training the voice within requires discipline, but not punishment. It requires gentleness. You cannot silence fear with aggression. You replace it with awareness and repetition. Every day, take a moment to notice how you speak to yourself. When you catch a thought that limits you, pause and breathe. Replace it with one that supports you. It might feel strange at first, but this is how transformation begins, not through sudden change, but through small, consistent choices. Over time, your mind learns that it no longer needs to protect you with fear. It begins to trust your strength. You will notice that the same challenges that once overwhelmed you now feel like invitations to grow. The voice that once said, "You are not ready," will now whisper, "You are capable." That is the moment you realize that your reality was never defined by what you faced, but by how you spoke to yourself while facing it. So train the voice within. Speak strength into your thoughts, courage into your silence, and hope into your fears. The world outside may still bring storms, but the voice inside will become your calm. And when that happens, you will no longer be at the mercy of life's noise. You will move through it with peace, guided by the strength of your own words. Self-awareness is the first step from judgment to growth. The journey from being your own critic to becoming your inner champion begins with noticing how you speak to yourself. Most people move through life unaware of the silent conversations happening inside their mind. They feel anxious, unmotivated, or stuck without realizing that the cause often lies in the tone of their inner dialogue. Awareness is the light that reveals what has long been hidden. You cannot change what you refuse to see, and you cannot rise above what you are not willing to confront. The moment you begin to listen to your own thoughts without fear or defense, transformation begins. Self-awareness is not about control, it is about observation. It is standing still long enough to witness the patterns that shape your reactions. It is recognizing when your mind shifts from courage to comparison, from acceptance to judgment, from belief to doubt. Many people think awareness is simply noticing thoughts, but it goes deeper than that. True awareness means noticing without identifying. You learn to say, "This is a thought," instead of, "This is me." You learn to separate your being from your mind's chatter. And when you do that, you create space. Space to choose differently, space to rewrite the dialogue that once ruled your emotions. The inner critic thrives in unconsciousness. It grows louder when you move through your day without questioning its voice. It repeats old fears, old judgments, old wounds, until they sound like truth. But once you become aware, the critic loses power. It can still speak, but it can no longer command. Awareness is the moment you catch yourself thinking, "I always fail," and pause to ask, "Is that really true?" It is the moment you notice the voice that says, "I'm not good enough," and respond, "Good enough for what? For whom?" This gentle questioning turns judgment into curiosity, and curiosity is the beginning of understanding. Growth happens when you stop reacting automatically and start responding consciously. The difference is awareness. You can face the same challenge, hear the same doubts, even feel the same fear, but awareness changes your relationship with them. Instead of drowning in emotion, you begin to float above it, seeing it for what it is, temporary, manageable, and not the entirety of who you are. Self-awareness gives you back control, not through force, but through understanding. When you know why you feel something, you no longer fear it. When you see where a thought comes from, you no longer let it define you. There is a deep stillness that comes with awareness. You begin to watch your mind like waves on the ocean, some calm, some rough, but all just passing movements. The more you observe, the less you identify. You realize you are not the storm, you are the sky holding it. This awareness does not make life easier, but it makes you stronger. It gives you the clarity to choose growth over judgment, compassion over criticism. And slowly, the voice that once attacked you becomes softer, more understanding, more patient. Most people think transformation begins with action, but it begins with awareness. Action without awareness is repetition. You can change your habits, your surroundings, even your goals, but if the voice within remains unconscious and critical, the pattern will repeat in different forms. Awareness helps you see these cycles. It shows you where your self-talk limits your potential, where you are harsh on yourself, where you demand perfection, but never give yourself permission to be human. Only through awareness can you begin to shift those patterns and speak to yourself differently. Self-awareness is also an act of courage. It takes strength to face the parts of yourself you have avoided. It takes honesty to admit that sometimes your thoughts are not your truth, but echoes of fear, doubt, and past pain. Yet when you face them with awareness, you take back your power. You stop running from the critic and start understanding it. You realize it was never an enemy, only a frightened part of you asking for reassurance. Awareness allows you to listen without letting it lead. Every great change begins with that one moment of recognition when you catch a thought and instead of believing it, you breathe. That pause is power. In that pause, the critic fades and the champion begins to rise. Awareness gives you choice, and choice gives you freedom. You no longer live as a prisoner of your thoughts. You become their observer, their guide, their teacher. So learn to watch yourself without judgment. Listen to your inner dialogue as you would listen to a friend who is struggling. Be kind, be curious, and be patient. The path from judgment to growth is not about silencing your inner voice. It is about teaching it to speak with truth, not fear. And once awareness becomes your daily practice, the critic will slowly dissolve, leaving space for a voice that finally believes in you. Transform every "I can't" into "I'm learning." These three words may seem small, almost insignificant, but their power is transformative. Every time you say, "I can't," you are giving the critic inside you authority over your life. You are allowing fear, doubt, and past failures to define what is possible. It becomes a chain that keeps you locked in the same patterns, the same limitations, and the same stories that do not serve your growth. But when you shift even slightly to "I'm learning," the entire landscape changes. The words you speak are not just sounds, they are seeds planted in your mind, in your energy, and in your future. And with this small shift, you begin to change everything. When we face challenges, the natural tendency is to focus on limitations. The mind is wired to protect us, to warn us of risk, and to ensure we stay safe. But safety is often mistaken for comfort. The critic inside loves safety because it is predictable, it is familiar, and it is unchallenging. Every "I can't" is a way of retreating into that comfort zone. It is a shield against failure, against embarrassment, against discomfort. But the same shield that protects you also keeps you small. Every "I can't" that is spoken repeatedly becomes a wall, separating you from the person you are meant to become. Learning to replace "I can't" with "I'm learning" is an act of rebellion against limitation. It is a statement that you will not be defined by fear or failure. You acknowledge the difficulty, the uncertainty, and even the potential for mistakes, but you do not let it stop you. "I'm learning" is an invitation to curiosity. It is a recognition that life is not about perfection, but about progress. Every step, even the ones that feel like stumbles, becomes valuable because they teach you something essential. Every failure becomes a lesson, every mistake a guide, every challenge an opportunity to stretch. The inner critic resists this change. It will argue, it will whisper, it will try to convince you that learning is too slow, that growth is too hard, that you are not capable. And this is precisely why you must respond with, "I'm learning." You do not need to shout or fight. You simply need to shift the language you use with yourself. This is the beginning of rewriting your inner dialogue. When your voice speaks progress rather than judgment, your mind and body follow. Confidence grows not because everything suddenly becomes easy, but because you are no longer defined by your limitations. You begin to act in spite of fear, to move even when uncertainty lingers, and to find courage in the small decisions you make every day. Every champion, every person who has achieved mastery has been through this process. They faced countless moments where "I can't" could have stopped them. They faced criticism, failure, and setbacks that could have crushed their spirit. But they learned to shift the internal narrative, to see themselves not as incapable, but as in progress. They understood that mastery is not instant, that excellence is built one step at a time, and that learning is the only true measure of growth. And this is the lesson for everyone. The phrase "I'm learning" is not denial of difficulty. It is an embrace of possibility. When you adopt this mindset, life itself begins to respond differently. Obstacles no longer appear as threats but as teachers. Challenges are no longer walls but bridges. And most importantly, you no longer judge yourself for where you are. You accept that growth is a process, that skill and understanding are built gradually, and that every effort matters. The inner voice that once criticized now becomes an observer, noticing progress and celebrating small victories. It may still raise concerns, but its power is diminished because you are now in command of the narrative. This shift is not about being perfect or never struggling. It is about seeing the journey as learning rather than failure. Every time you attempt something new, stumble, or feel inadequate, you have the choice to respond with judgment or with curiosity. Choosing curiosity, saying "I'm learning," teaches your mind that experience is growth, not a verdict. And with repetition, this mindset becomes automatic. It becomes the natural response to difficulty, the habitual dialogue that shapes how you approach life. Ultimately, replacing "I can't" with "I'm learning" is an act of freedom. It is freedom from fear, from self-doubt, from the tyranny of the critic inside. It allows you to move forward even when certainty is absent, to embrace challenges even when the path is unclear, and to celebrate growth even when the outcome is imperfect. You begin to see yourself not as limited by your circumstances, but as empowered by your willingness to learn. So start today. Hear the voice that says, "I can't," and answer with, "I'm learning." Let it become a habit, a rhythm, a guiding principle. Every time you do, you take one more step toward rewriting your inner dialogue, transforming doubt into strength, and shaping a life where the champion within finally emerges. The critic inside you was never meant to break you. It was never designed to make you feel small or unworthy. On the contrary, it was born from a place of protection. From the earliest moments of life, We are conditioned to avoid pain, to be cautious, and to measure ourselves against the expectations of others. That inner voice, the one that questions, doubts, and warns, is simply trying to keep you safe. But the problem is that safety is often mistaken for stagnation. What protects you can also limit you, and the same voice that seeks to shelter you can, if left unchecked, hold you back from realizing your true potential. Understanding this is the first step toward transformation. When we see the critic not as an enemy, but as a misguided guide, we take away its ability to control us. Awareness of its purpose allows us to separate its warnings from our decisions. You begin to notice that the voice that says, "You will fail," is simply expressing fear, not fact. It is the echo of past experiences, the voice of comparison, the projection of doubt. When you recognize that, you stop reacting with panic and start responding with choice. You begin to observe without judgment and to listen without surrender. The critic becomes strongest when it operates in secrecy. It thrives in silence, in unexamined thoughts, in unquestioned assumptions. Every time you automatically accept its message, you reinforce its power. But once you shine the light of awareness, the critic loses dominance. You can hear it without obeying it. You can feel its warnings without letting them dictate your actions. And that is the essence of turning the critic into a teacher. Instead of letting it paralyze you, you learn to translate its fear into insight, its caution into preparation, and its doubt into motivation. Growth requires discomfort, and the critic naturally resists discomfort. It will remind you of every failure, every misstep, every perceived weakness, all in the name of caution. But this is where the transformation begins. When you choose to act in spite of fear, to move forward even when the critic protests, you are training yourself to rise above limitation. Each step taken in courage, each decision made in awareness, strengthens the inner voice that supports rather than sabotages. You begin to create a dialogue that guides you toward growth instead of retreat. The key is not to silence the critic entirely. That is neither realistic nor necessary. Every human being will encounter self-doubt, worry, and inner questioning. These are natural and even helpful when balanced with self-awareness. The real power lies in teaching the critic to serve you instead of controlling you. When it speaks, you listen, not to obey, but to understand. What is it afraid of? What is it warning you about? What patterns from the past are influencing its message? And once you understand, you respond from a place of strength rather than fear. Every champion has felt the voice of doubt. They have been aware of it, confronted it, and yet chosen to move forward anyway. The difference between someone who is stopped by the critic and someone who rises above it is not the absence of fear, but the ability to act in spite of it. You cannot remove fear from life, but you can change how you respond to it. You can turn it from a chain into a compass, from a wall into a guidepost. The critic that once held you back becomes a partner in your growth, alerting you to challenges, but no longer defining your path. This transformation takes patience and practice. It is not a single moment of courage, but a daily practice of self-awareness and conscious choice. You will still hear the voice that says, "You cannot do this," but now you will also hear your own response. "I am learning, I am growing, I am capable." Each repetition strengthens the part of you that believes in possibility, resilience, and self-trust. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes to listen without fear, to question without doubt, and to act without hesitation. Ultimately, the critic's warnings are not meant to stop you. They are meant to teach you to move with awareness and intentionality. It challenges you to examine your thoughts, to confront your fears, and to choose courage. Every time you face it, understand it, and act in spite of it, you take one more step from self-doubt to self-mastery. You learn to harness the energy of caution without being trapped by it, to translate judgment into insight, and to use fear as fuel for growth. So remember, the critic inside is not your enemy. It is a part of you that needs understanding, not suppression. By observing it, learning from it, and responding with courage, you turn it from a force that limits you into a guide that empowers you. In doing so, you step closer to becoming the champion of your own life. Speak to yourself with the same compassion you give to others. This simple idea is often overlooked, yet it holds the key to transforming the inner dialogue from criticism to encouragement. Most people are quick to offer kindness, patience, and understanding to friends, family, and colleagues, but when it comes to themselves, the standard is completely different. We measure our worth against impossible ideals, punish ourselves for mistakes, and speak harshly to our own hearts. The irony is that the voice inside you responds to your tone just as much as your actions respond to your thoughts. When you treat yourself with compassion, you give yourself permission to grow, to heal, and to rise above fear. Compassion toward yourself begins with awareness. You must first notice the moments when your inner voice turns judgmental, impatient, or cruel. When you hear the words, "You failed again," or "You are not good enough," pause and observe without reacting. Recognize that these words are not facts. They are reflections of fear, habit, or past experience. Awareness alone is not enough, but it is the doorway. Once you notice the harshness in your internal dialogue, you can choose a different response. You can choose to speak to yourself as you would speak to someone you deeply care for, with patience, understanding, and encouragement. Self-compassion does not mean ignoring mistakes or avoiding responsibility. It does not mean pretending that everything is fine when it is not. Rather, it is the practice of holding yourself with gentle honesty. It is saying, "I made a mistake, and that is part of being human. I will learn from this and move forward." It transforms failure from a source of shame into a source of insight. Every time you replace harsh judgment with kind reflection, you retrain your mind to seek understanding rather than punishment. You begin to see setbacks not as proof of inadequacy, but as opportunities to grow stronger, wiser, and more resilient. The voice you speak to yourself with shapes your perception of life. Harshness breeds fear and hesitation, while compassion breeds courage and confidence. When your mind is filled with kindness toward yourself, you approach challenges with clarity rather than panic, with curiosity rather than doubt. The small, seemingly insignificant words you whisper to yourself each day accumulate into habits that determine how you feel, how you act, and ultimately how you live. Compassion becomes a muscle that, when exercised consistently, strengthens your resilience and your belief in your own potential. Many people underestimate the power of gentle self-talk. They think change comes only through motivation, discipline, or external achievement. While these are important, the foundation of lasting growth is the tone you use with yourself. Imagine navigating the same difficulties with a voice inside that says, "You are capable. You are learning. You can handle this." Instead of constant criticism, the difference is profound. Challenges that once felt overwhelming now feel manageable. Mistakes become stepping stones instead of stumbling blocks. Life begins to feel less like a battle and more like a journey where every experience contributes to your growth. Compassion is also a tool for resilience. Life will inevitably bring setbacks, criticism from others, and moments of self-doubt. The critic inside may never completely disappear, but when your inner dialogue is grounded in compassion, its power diminishes. You can hear its warnings without letting them dominate you. You can acknowledge your fear without letting it control your actions. Compassion gives you the space to respond thoughtfully rather than reactively. It turns pressure into guidance and struggle into opportunity. Speaking to yourself with compassion is a daily practice. It can begin with something as simple as noticing a negative thought and reframing it in kind language. It can be as small as saying, "It is okay to feel this way," or "I am doing my best and that is enough for today." These moments, repeated over time, reshape the patterns of your inner dialogue. They allow the champion within you to rise above the critic, to replace fear with confidence, and to replace judgment with understanding. Ultimately, compassion is a mirror. The way you treat yourself internally reflects in the way you experience the world externally. The more kindness you offer to your own mind, the more courage, clarity, and resilience you cultivate. You begin to move through life with a steady heart, guided by encouragement instead of criticism, and empowered to rewrite the story you tell yourself every day. So choose to speak to yourself with patience, kindness, and understanding. Let your words uplift rather than punish, guide rather than judge. In that gentle, consistent practice, you transform not just your inner dialogue, but your life itself. Your thoughts are seeds, plant belief, not doubt. The way you think, the words you repeat to yourself, and the stories you tell inside your mind shape the life you experience. Every thought carries energy, and every word you whisper to yourself has the power to either build or destroy. Many people underestimate the power of the mind, thinking that circumstances, luck, or talent determine success, but in truth, your inner world is the soil from which your reality grows. If you plant seeds of fear, hesitation, and doubt, you will harvest limitation. But if you plant seeds of belief, courage, and possibility, you will grow strength and opportunity. It begins with awareness of the seeds you are planting every day. Notice the thoughts that arise when you face challenges, when you encounter failure, or when you compare yourself to others. Do you hear the words, "I am not ready," "I can't do this," or "this is too hard"? These are seeds of doubt, and if left unchecked, they will take root and shape your perception of reality. The mind does not judge the truth of these thoughts. It simply nurtures them. Every time you repeat doubt, your brain interprets it as instruction, and your energy, focus, and actions align with that instruction. You begin to act in accordance with what you believe, often unconsciously, and before long, your life reflects the limitations you have planted. Planting belief requires intention. It is not enough to simply wish for confidence or success. You must actively cultivate the thoughts that support growth. When doubt arises, acknowledge it without judgment, then deliberately replace it with belief. Say to yourself, "I am capable of learning," "I can handle this challenge," or "every step I take brings me closer to my goal." These statements may feel small at first, but repetition changes the structure of your mind. Like water nourishing a seed, repeated belief strengthens neural pathways, reshaping your perception of what is possible. Over time, the inner voice that once doubted you becomes an ally, guiding rather than restricting, encouraging rather than critiquing. The environment in which your thoughts grow also matters. Just as seeds flourish in fertile soil and with adequate sunlight, your mind flourishes when surrounded by positivity, inspiration, and constructive influence. Limit exposure to negativity that reinforces doubt. Choose people, experiences, and information that plant encouragement, not fear. Read words that expand possibility. Surround yourself with individuals who believe in growth, and create daily rituals that reinforce self-belief. These practices are the sunlight and water for the seeds of confidence you are planting within yourself. Belief is not about ignoring reality or pretending challenges do not exist. It is about choosing to focus on potential rather than limitation. It is about seeing opportunity where doubt once lived. When you encounter failure or difficulty, the seeds of belief help you respond with resilience, curiosity, and determination. Instead of saying, "I cannot do this," you ask, "What can I learn from this?" Instead of retreating from discomfort, you see it as an invitation to grow. The seeds you plant in your thoughts determine not just how you feel in the moment, but how you navigate every obstacle, opportunity, and choice that comes your way. Every champion understands this principle. They know that greatness begins in the mind long before it manifests in action. They do not wait for confidence or certainty to arrive. They cultivate it daily through deliberate thoughts, consistent inner dialogue, and a refusal to let doubt dominate. Even in moments of fear or uncertainty, they plant the seeds of belief first, and their actions grow from that foundation. This is the quiet work that determines outcomes far more than talent, luck, or circumstance. Consistency is key. Seeds do not grow overnight, and neither does belief. It takes daily attention, patience, and repetition. Each time you notice a negative thought and replace it with a supportive one, you are watering the seeds of your potential. Each time you choose to speak words of encouragement to yourself, you strengthen the foundation of growth. Over time, the habit of planting belief becomes second nature, and the critic within loses its dominance. Ultimately, the life you live is a reflection of the seeds you plant within your mind. Doubt produces limitation. Belief produces expansion. Fear produces hesitation. Courage produces action. And the beauty of this truth is that you have control over which seeds you plant. You are not bound by past failures, criticism, or self-doubt. You are free to plant thought after thought of confidence, possibility, and resilience, and to watch as your inner world blooms into the life you desire. So choose your thoughts deliberately. Speak to yourself with intention. Replace doubt with belief, hesitation with courage, and fear with possibility. The seeds you plant today will grow into the strength, clarity, and success of tomorrow, shaping a reality that reflects the champion you are becoming. Mastering your inner dialogue is mastering your destiny. Every choice you make, every step you take, and every action you perform is influenced by the conversation happening within your mind. Most people underestimate this power, believing that external circumstances, luck, or other people determine their future. But the truth is that the words you say to yourself, the stories you tell yourself, and the beliefs you cultivate form the foundation of your life. If your inner dialogue is filled with doubt, fear, and limitation, your actions will reflect that. But if you speak to yourself with clarity, courage, and belief, you begin to shape a reality that aligns with your potential. The journey to mastering your inner dialogue begins with awareness. You must notice the voice that comments, judges, and critiques you silently, often without your conscious permission. That voice can be relentless, reminding you of past failures, highlighting your weaknesses, and predicting future shortcomings. Awareness allows you to separate yourself from this voice, to see it for what it is, a reflection of habit, fear, and conditioning, not an absolute truth. Once you can observe your thoughts without being controlled by them, you create space to rewrite them. This is where transformation begins, for the mind that is watched can also be trained. Mastery requires consistency and intention. You cannot expect your inner dialogue to change overnight, but through deliberate effort, it can shift gradually. Begin by noticing the patterns of thought that limit you. Perhaps you catch yourself thinking, I am not ready, I will never succeed, or I always fail. These thoughts are not facts, they are habits of the mind. And like any habit, they can be replaced. Start speaking words that nurture growth. I am learning, I am capable, I am becoming stronger every day. Repetition is the key. The more consistently you speak this language of possibility to yourself, the more it becomes your default mode of thinking, and the critic that once dominated loses its authority. Mastering inner dialogue is not about silencing the critic entirely. The voice of doubt, fear, or caution will always exist in some form, but mastery is about how you respond to it. Instead of reacting with panic or resignation, you acknowledge the thought, learn from it, and then choose a response rooted in courage and belief. This subtle shift transforms fear into insight, hesitation into preparation, and criticism into guidance. You do not deny reality, but you do not allow limitation to dictate your path. You choose your words, your focus, and your interpretation of events, and in doing so, you reclaim control over your life. The impact of mastering your inner dialogue extends beyond your mind. It influences your energy, your confidence, and your relationships. When you speak kindly and courageously to yourself, you carry that energy into the world. Challenges that once felt insurmountable now appear as opportunities. Decisions that once caused anxiety now feel manageable. Your presence changes because the foundation within you, your dialogue, your self-perception, and your belief system is strong and supportive. Mastery is not simply about thinking positively, it is about aligning your mind, words, and actions so that your inner and outer worlds move in harmony. This mastery is also an act of resilience. Life will continue to bring challenges, criticism, and setbacks, but when your inner dialogue is under your command, you respond rather than react. You face adversity with calmness and clarity because you have trained your mind to support rather than sabotage you. You no longer allow fear, doubt, or past mistakes to determine your trajectory. Each time you choose belief over limitation, courage over hesitation, and insight over judgment, You reinforce the inner structure that guides your destiny. Every person who achieves extraordinary growth understands this principle. They do not rely solely on talent, luck, or circumstance. They master their minds first, cultivating a voice inside that encourages, motivates, and guides them through uncertainty. When the critic arises, they respond with awareness, compassion, and deliberate choice. They turn self-doubt into a teacher, fear into a signal, and judgment into a tool for growth. Mastery of the inner dialogue is the foundation upon which resilience, courage, and achievement are built. Ultimately, mastering your inner dialogue is about reclaiming your power. It is the recognition that the critic inside does not define you unless you allow it to. It is the conscious decision to plant seeds of belief, courage, and possibility, and to nurture them daily. Every thought you choose to cultivate, every word you choose to speak to yourself, and every story you choose to tell about who you are shapes not just your present, but your future. The path to becoming a champion begins with the conversation you have inside your own mind. So take ownership of your inner dialogue. Speak with clarity, compassion, and courage. Align your thoughts with the life you wish to create. The more you master this inner conversation, the more you master your actions, your choices, and ultimately your destiny. As we come to the close of this journey from critic to champion, remember that the path to transformation begins within. Every thought you nurture, every word you speak to yourself, and every story you choose to believe shapes the life you will live. The critic inside is not your enemy. It is an invitation to awareness, growth, and courage. By training your mind to speak strength instead of fear, to respond with compassion instead of judgment, and to see every challenge as an opportunity to learn, you step into the power that has always been within you. Life will continue to test you, doubts will arise, and fears will appear, but now you have the tools to navigate them. The voice you cultivate in silence will guide you in moments of uncertainty, reminding you that you are capable, resilient, and worthy of the success and happiness you seek. Transformation is not a destination. It is a daily practice of awareness, belief, and intentional choice. Carry this message with you. Your destiny is written not by circumstances or critics outside, but by the dialogue you hold within. Speak to yourself with encouragement, patience, and courage, and you will find that the champion you seek has been waiting for you all along. Good luck on your journey, and thank you for allowing yourself the courage to listen, reflect, and rise.